What's going on, YouTube? Ferocity here. I hope you guys are doing well. There has been growing concern recently regarding the Phantoms and their passive ability here in XDefiant. Many believe that this passive ability that grants you 20 bonus health points is overpowered. And that's what I want to talk about today, because this didn't really seem to heat up as much until the most recent patch that we got earlier this week. And this patch nerfed the Echelon Intel suit, which resulted in a lot of players migrating away from the Echelons and moving towards the Phantoms. Because the Intel suit was a little bit less viable, and getting 20 bonus health points every single gunfight, that matters. And that's what I want to discuss today. Whether or not the Phantoms, as they are right now, are overpowered. Now, for some of you that don't know, or maybe you're new to the game, every faction has 4 unique abilities. A passive ability, like what we'll be focusing on today, is one that's available to you at all times in the game. There's nothing you have to do to activate it, it's just something that your player by default has. So if you're using the cleaners, for instance, you get those incendiary rounds that provide you fire damage. And then each faction also has 2 tactical abilities, and those are the ones that you select between before you hit your create a class screen at the start of every game. And then, of course, you have your ultras. Now, I'd argue one of my favorite parts of XDefiant is the faction system. I find for the most part, a lot of them are really well balanced, and they have a nice variety to them as well. But with the Phantoms and their passive ability of 20 bonus health points, there is a problem here. And this is coming from somebody who's using the Phantoms in this gameplay, that has probably used the Phantoms as their most used faction. I understand they're problematic. And they're not just problematic from a user perspective, from a gameplay perspective between players. I mean, in this gameplay, you're going to see me tank a sniper rifle shot. That doesn't happen. Imagine how frustrating it is for the person on the other end that hit me with a perfectly good shot, but I tank it like nobody's business because I'm granted an extra 20 health points because I selected a class that they didn't. It's frustrating, and I get that. But not only is it bad for the players, it's also harder for the developers, because now you have to balance the game for 100 health points and 120 health points. And it's a very tough balancing act as a result. It creates a lot more problems. And it just seems like this idea was something they thought was good in theory, but once it's been put into practice, it just doesn't work. And I know this was brought up many times during the betas and the server test sessions, but it never really seemed to get as much momentum as it has right now. And frankly, I'm with the community on this. It's overpowered and it needs to be changed immediately. And I think that's fair. It'll make the developers' jobs easier because now you don't have to balance the game for 2 different health points. And it'll make the players have a little bit more fun because you're not getting into a gunfight when you're already in a distinct disadvantage just from the onset because you have 20 less health points. It's kind of stupid. It's kind of silly if you ask me. But that's how I feel regarding that. So what do you change? How do you change the passive? What do you change it to? Well, many in the community have suggested that the Phantoms should be able to shrug explosive damage a little bit easier, like the flak jacket perk in Call of Duty, or be able to shrug flashbangs and EMP grenades, like the tactical mass perk in Call of Duty. And I'm on board with both of these. I think that is a great compromise. Maybe even having some fire damage suppression as well. All are great suggestions, and honestly would bring the game to a more balanced state, because it currently is unbalanced. I love the changes to the Echelon and the Intel suit, and honestly, anything that removes this passive ability and generates it into something else is good in my books. This will make life a lot easier for the developers and for the community. And on top of it, ranked play will be a lot more fun because it's not going to be riddled with players only using the Phantoms. Players will now coordinate their teams with a variety of different abilities and factions at their fingertips, and it'll create more fun and engaging experiences for all. I mean, we all know what the game was like when everybody was using Intel suits. It was a little boring. It was a little, this isn't that much fun. The game is at its best when people are utilizing the variety that has been provided to us. And there's a lot of great stuff here. And I keep repeating it. There's a lot of good here, and the good is directly a result of the amount of variety that there is in the gunplay and the factions. Unfortunately, right now, there's a little bit of a hiccup because one of the factions' passive abilities is just too strong. It needs to be removed as soon as possible. Now, I talked about a little bit in yesterday's video regarding being optimistic. This is one of those times that will make me more optimistic because, hey, you guys have seen the error in your ways. Something that you thought worked in theory didn't work in practice. Now do you have the heart to change it and make a solid change that propels this game forward? This is the important times that we do have to focus in on what the developer response is. For most other things, it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't affect the game that much. But the way they respond to the current sentiment around the Phantoms is going to be key to the future of this game. It's going to be key to public matches, but even more so to ranked play. And I really hope a change to the Phantoms is coupled with a change to the current faction selection. Because I think there should be limits on how many of each faction are allowed to be utilized on each team. And if they're able to limit that, I think we're going to be in a much better spot because it all equates to that extremely varied experience. And that's honestly what keeps people coming back time and time again. The more varied the experience is, the more random it is, the more fun it has the potential to be. Right now, XDefiant is at a crossroads. It has to determine whether it wants to change course or stay the path. And I know which way I'd like the game to go. I'm curious what you think. Do you think the game should change course? Do you think that it should stay along this path and have this unique health point advantage for one faction? That's the question we need answered. And it seems to be the number one question in this community right now. And I'm so glad that it's been highlighted recently. I'm so glad that it's gaining momentum because this is an opportunity for all of us to check behind the curtain and see if the developers have the balls to go against one of their most controversial decisions from the get-go. This was something, like I said earlier, that was brought up early on in the game's development. Why do you have a faction that has so much more health than the others? So will they finally go against their better judgment and fix this? Or are they going to stay headstrong? Again, these are the decisions that are going to matter to the longevity and the health of this game as we move forward. But that's all I've got for you in this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. How do you think the Phantoms stack up right now? Are they overpowered or are they not? And if they are overpowered, what would you suggest be the fix to rectify this issue? I'd love to hear from you in that comment section down below. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. If you want to see more videos from me, please hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.